So Oregon goes undefeated throughout the regular season, doesn't even make it to the Natty. Is it a good, successful season for Dan Lanning?
Yeah, I think so. Oregon last year in 2023 went 12-2 in their last year in the Pac-12. Both of their losses were to Washington, who ultimately played in the national championship game. And then, of course, this year they finish up at 13-1. Dan Lanning in his third season has had nothing but success to take this team. Their first year in the Big Ten, they finished up, number 3 in the AP ranking, number 4 in the coaches poll. This season was a great year for them. Obviously, going undefeated is awesome, but also they get to hang their hat a little bit that they did beat Ohio State, who won the national championship in the regular season. And they also had a chance to knock off Washington, who was the team that beat them twice last year. And they defeated Michigan, who was the national champion last year. So I think those are 3, big hang your hat moments for them in their first year in the conference.
And they also beat Boise State in the second game of the season, which is a playoff team. So another big win there. Certainly from a wins-loss standpoint, they had a great season. Dylan Gabriel also great season, just all around. I believe it was one of the Heisman finalists. And in their first year in the Big Ten, ended up winning it.
Right. And that was a good game against a Penn State team that obviously went far in the playoffs too. At the end of the day, Ohio State had this great run to close the season, but Oregon had that all year long, beating solid teams, teams that were in the playoff, Boise State, Ohio State, Penn State, and just really, outclassing teams. They were a good mixture of teams, of players that had homegrown as well as transfers. And they were just very solid on both offense and defense. They were number 16 in the country in scoring offense and number 17 in scoring defense. So you don't get that much more balance than that.
Yeah, the only game that they really had any trouble with during the regular season was Wisconsin, going to Camp Randall, and they eked out that one 16-13.
At the end of the day, they just got beat by a team that had more talent in Ohio State. Very similar to a lot of these Alabama-Georgia games that you've seen over the last few years, where particularly in that 2021 season where Georgia lost that SEC championship game to Alabama, but when they played in the national championship game, the talent played up to its ability, and the team that was the better team at the end of the day won. So I think that's kind of what happened to Oregon here. They were just very good, but Ohio State was just a little bit better.
Yeah, great regular season. Took care of business in the Big Ten championship game. They're outside of that Wisconsin game, their close games were their big games. Boise State, 3-point win. Ohio State, 1-point win. But the rest of the games, they pretty much dominated.
So for my grade for Oregon, first year in the Big Ten champion, undefeated regular season, lost in the quarterfinals of the playoffs, I'm going to give them an A- for this season. Earl, what'd you give them?
Yeah, I also went with an A- for similar reasons. First year in the Big Ten, they really stepped up their game compared to where they were the previous year. The competition that they're playing this year is better than what was in the old Pac-12, 16, now 2, whatever it is now. And, the Big Ten has like 19 teams or something stupid like that. Anyway, they had a really, really great year. They had a Heisman finalist. They won the Big Ten, made it to the playoff, had the bye, and unfortunately just couldn't pull it out against Ohio State that second time. And we all know how hard it is to beat a team twice in the same season. Georgia barely squeaked out against Texas in the SEC championship, and we saw that against Bama as well. So I go with an A- there for them. Great year. So their finish score, so they won their conference, they made the playoff. So that's a A- for their how they actually did during the season. So the final grade for the Oregon Ducks, according to the Nitro Show, is they get an A- for their 2024 campaign.
Just a great